Alright, so here we are. We're at the Robert Gould Shaw. We're at the Robert Gould Shaw Monument with the all-black regiment soldiers who were fighting for the Union at the time. And Lord willing, we go through a little bit of history and speak about how these troops, how they became to become soldiers, and what the outcome for many of these soldiers was, contrary to what you may believe in the movies they put on, Showtime, the Cinemax, and what have you. All right, so we're gonna get started, and we're just gonna break this thing down. We'll to edify.
Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem, Rakakadash.
Alright, so we're just gonna get into it, man. Like we said last week, we're gonna go through Boston, hit a couple of these monuments, get a little history out of them. And this monument in particular, it's world renowned because of Robert Gould Shaw, who was the general at the time who was leading the troops. And now, contrary to belief, they portrayed that the so-called Negroes that was in this regiment wanted to fight. Okay, their idea was them wanting to fight for the Union, and they thought it was saying it was voluntary. But the main reason for fighting is because they was going to go against the Confederates, and the majority of the Confederates were down in the South. So therefore, if they overthrew the South, that would free all their brothers and their families that were down in the South. Okay? But Esau paints that picture of, they came together to fight for this land. It wasn't for this land that they were fighting for. They were fighting for their families, their loved ones back down in the South that were still what? In slavery. Alright? So we're going to just get into it. Anybody got any, what you got, brother? Go ahead.
Ecclesiastes 10 verse 7, I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth.
Right. Now when you pan back, Esau, he was the original servant. And the princes are the children of Israel, so-called Negroes, West Indian, Puerto Ricans. It says they were walking as servants upon the earth. They were walking as princes upon the earth, rather. Okay, the servant was Esau. Okay? So these things that the scriptures foresaw had come to pass, man. There's nothing new under the sun. That's why we know the Lord said what? His word is faithful and true. So in the book of Hebrews, it says the word is quick and powerful. That word quick means a lot. So here we see a prime example of the servant who's on the horse, the prince is walking upon the ground. Now many brothers did shows a couple weeks back where they showed these two Edomites had this Jake, kind of strapped up with some rope walking through the city, Once again, that was another aspect of seeing the servant upon horses and the prince upon the ground. There's nothing changed over here, man. There's nothing changed. There's really no freedom that these people gained. Most of these brothers died in this war, man. They died for the war. Go ahead. Good, brother.
In Genesis 25 verse 20, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian, of Padanaram, the sister of Laban, the Syrian. And Isaac entreated of the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. Rebekah, his wife, conceived, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 men of people shall be separated from thy bowel, and the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger.
Right. So there's going to be one people stronger than the other. But when we came into captivity, okay, that stronger people became the weaker people through the course of time, through the course of our transgressions, okay. But once again, there were two, like the scripture says, there was 2 nations, 2 men or people. 2 nations are going to be separated from that bondage. Okay, this whole story that we're living right now, the reality that we're living, the whole story is all about Jacob and Esau. This is the reality of life, man. This is what it's all about. You still got people who are still saying that. Yep, you still got people talking about, union, unity, get together. Well, the scripture says they both struggled in their womb. That struggle consists and continues to this very day, man. It may not be on a very physical level where you see everybody going to arms right now, but the struggle's still there. Even when you like, when you're walking down the road and you see a so-called Jake or Edomite, there was always that connection with you and Jake, man. When you go into a facility or where you see Edom all over the place, you may see that one Jake. You both look at each other, and that's that connection you have, man. You like, yeah, what's going on, man? You don't know each other from a hole in the wall.
I was thinking about that last night. It's interesting you say that because we got a lot of, I guess, I listen to a lot of podcasts and radio, talk radio shows, and one thing that's constant is our people subscribing to this African thing, right? And when you think about when I think about Africans, when I see them, I don't feel that connection that the elders was talking about. I don't feel that brotherly love, that camaraderie. But I can see Asher, right, who I never met, who I never knew, and feel that connection, right? And feel like that's my people. I feel like I'm a part of that, you know. So it's interesting that you say that, you know. And that's, like the elder said, that's what this whole regiment was about. This 54th regiment was about the people that had escaped slavery from the South and came here to the North, and they wanted to free their cousins, their uncles, their sisters and brothers. They wanted to free their people, so they wanted to fight and be a part of this, right?
Not only that, you know, they were getting their asses handed to them. Yeah. So they had no other way to look but to the so-called Negroes to help out for this war.
Right.
Okay, because when you look at this monument ain't about the 54th Regiment. Right. It's not about them. It's about the man who's on the horse. Right. Okay? These men that you see here that are on foot, they were expendable. Okay? But to glorify the whole aspect of what we're seeing here, they want to throw. He led the so-called Negroes, and he said in his memoirs that the so-called Negroes were had more valor and more spirit than their regular white troops. Yep. Okay? So if you ever go to war, these are the people you want to be on your side, man. And this is why they summoned up all these so-called Negroes. Okay, we're gonna go down to the place where they were recruited, and if the Lord permit, we'll go down to where they actually train these men. Okay, but once again, now when this mural was designed, okay, many people wanted. I'll say this: he was fond of his troops. He was very fond. Shaw was fond of his troops, and they wanted at first to put him on the battlefield with his men. Okay, but the only conflict with that is if they had put him on the battlefield with his men, he would have been the same size as his men, and they wouldn't have been able to distinguish how much of a mighty man he was. Because at the end of the day, they were all the same size. They're all fighting the same war. But coming back to reality, now it's like we gotta make this man be the shining star. Okay, we gotta make this man stand out above all men. Now they all fought the same war, right? Right? Did they not? They all was in the same war. They all faced the same adversity. But why is one esteemed higher than the other? You see? But these are the things that when you go through history, you know how insignificant the so-called minorities were during that time period. Okay? Now, when Abraham Lincoln had came into effect with the Emancipation Proclamation, you know, it was like we said last week. It was said that the slaves were free, but you still had southern states that had slavery. Okay, but in the school system of this world, they'll give you the belief that all black people were free, which was not the case. Okay, and then when you can go online and look up 5 things you didn't know about Abraham Lincoln. We mentioned it last week. Okay, he was highly opposed of making the black man equal to white men. He was highly opposed to that.
I got you right here. If I may with the article.
Yeah, you go first.
So this was a response that Abraham Lincoln responded to Executive Mansion, okay, of Washington. Okay, so it says, I have just read yours of the 19th, addressed to myself through the New York Tribune. If there be in it any statement or assumptions of fact which I may know to be erroneous, I do not know and here controvert them. If there be it, and sound like the sun is just. If there be in it any inferences which I may believe to be falsely drawn, I do not know and here argue against them. If there be perceptible in it an impatient and dictatorial tone, I waive it in deference to an old friend whose heart I have always supposed to be right. as to the policy I seem to be pursuing, as you say, I have not meant to leave anyone in doubt. I would save the Union. I would save it the shortest way under the Constitution. The sooner the national authority can be restored, the nearer the Union will be the Union as it was.
Right. So it was more about his national authority, because at that time, during the Civil War, as we all know, the country was split in two, right? So the whole decision of the Emancipation Proclamation and all these things, it was a war tactic, right. and it was more important to get the country unified under one power than it was to have slaves freed. So that's what they did. They freed the slaves so that that war or that battle can be evened out. Because if you look at the South, right, much like the Electoral College, you can use the population, your slave population, to your advantage if you're a southern state, right? So Abraham Lincoln, being a smart man, he knew that. So he said, if we free them, then the first thing they're going to want to do is come here, right, and fight on our side. So it was a tactic to balance out the war, so the southern states wouldn't have an advantage over the North by using their slaves. They would have outnumbered them.
He says it right here.
I have a question.
I didn't mean to jump the gun.
No, it's okay. He says it right here. It says, I have not meant to leave anyone in doubt. I will save the Union. I will save it the shortest way under the Constitution. The sooner the national authority can be restored, the nearer the Union will be the Union it was. If there be those who would not save the Union unless they could at the same time save slavery, I do not agree with them. If there be those who would not save the Union unless they could at the same time destroy slavery, I do not agree with them.
Making it clear.
Making it clear.
That he wouldn't have, if he could, this whole war was about keeping the Union together. Now the whole deceptive part about this all is that you really, when you think of the Civil War, you really think this was a war fought between the South and the North to free the slaves. That's what everybody believes that was about, when that was nearly an afterthought, and it's proven through documents. But the whole world believes that the Civil War was fought for the freedom of the slaves. That in itself should raise questions as to, like, what are we learning? Or why is this such a? This is a big deception. This is a lot of deception that they pull upon the people and to fool the world with.
Right. It says, my paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union, and it's not either to save or to destroy slavery. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it.
Right.
And
documents prove this. His own words prove this. History proves this. It's just the truth. Why don't we just? What's wrong with the truth? Why don't you just say the truth?
What can we do?
Right.
What can we do? But it just goes to show, like when we read Wisdom in the second chapter, it just goes to show they're not proud of their history. Right. They're not happy about their history. So what they'll do is they'll paint the history, they'll paint the story as though he was this great man, this honorable man. Really, his concern was get the country back together under one power.
if I may, real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this article, Abraham Lincoln is basically responding to some of the people in Congress, primarily to this guy, because he was in doubt. They were like, wait a minute, what the hell is this guy doing? They didn't know about his full-out plan, that he had to play the chess game that they were playing. So that's why he's replying to the executive mansion, okay?